Welcome to the Nonprofit Voice, a podcast series brought to you by NonProfit Pro, the go-to resource for nonprofit management and strategy. In each episode, we're going to sit down with leaders of nonprofit organizations, the people responsible for paving the way for our sector, along with key technology strategy partners who are transforming our industry. Here at the Nonprofit Voice, we'll have refreshing conversations in which we will all learn more about the convergence of nonprofit and technology. Be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website to find more episodes of the Nonprofit Voice. And you can download all of the Nonprofit Voice episodes on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. We will have all the links down below. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Nonprofit Voice. I'm Nate, Editor-in-Chief of NonProfit Pro, and as always, I'll be your host for today's episode. So how is everybody doing? I hope everyone is safe and healthy during these difficult times. All is good as it can be over here at NonProfit Pro. I've been working from home, which, as we all know, can be super distracting with everybody home. But I'm doing my best, keeping operations moving along, as you could probably tell from my DIY #NPP Trending Now videos. As usual, I'm super stoked to be here, and I hope you are too. Today, I have two of my very special advisory board members waiting on the line with me, and we're going to dive into this year's nonprofit trends. I know nonprofits, just like the rest of the world, are being heavily impacted by today's circumstances. So in light of everything going on, we will be touching on trends related to COVID-19 to help you awesome nonprofits apply these trends to your strategy sooner rather than later. So without further ado, today I have on the line Jamie Bearse, CEO of ZERO, the End of Prostate Cancer, and Rachel Cyrulnik, Principal of Raise Nonprofit Advisors. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you both doing?
Hey, New. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So at the start of 2020, NonProfit Pro released its annual 40 Trends resource. And I thought it'd be a really cool idea to dive into one trend in each of the 7 categories outlined in the 40 Trends piece. And of course, we'll have a link down below so those who have not downloaded it can do so. In episode number 15, Jamie, Rachel, and I are going to dive into one trend in the following categories: big ideas, fundraising and marketing, up-and-coming tech tools, giving trends and relations, leadership strategies for development, and peer-to-peer fundraising. But first, let's get to know our guests a little bit more. So Jamie, can you share your background with us and how you found yourself in the nonprofit sector?
I'd be happy to. Again, thanks for having me on. I have been involved in the cancer cause now for 18 years, which sounds like quite a long time. But it really all started because when I was growing up, we didn't celebrate Mother's Day when I was a kid, and the reason for that is because my grandmother had died of colon cancer at the age of 50 on Mother's Day. And my mom at the time really stepped up and was a caregiver for her dad and her siblings at the time. And so which sort of created the opportunity for me to spend a lot more time with my other grandmother, which was fantastic until a year after that, she died of leukemia. So cancer always sort of stuck in me of wanting to do everything that I could to end the disease. At a young age, really preteen, teenager years, and when the opportunity came around to be part of the cancer cause, I took it. Unfortunately enough, through the years, I've been lucky enough to be a part of this great organization, a team member of this great organization called ZERO, the End of Prostate Cancer, and we're the leading patient advocacy group aimed to ending prostate cancer through advancing research and encouraging action through nearly 50 run walks that we have across the country, and executing great programs aimed toward helping patients and their families.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear about that, but what a wonderful journey it took you into, doing what you do now and advancing such an awesome mission.
Yeah, it's great because through the years, I've been able to meet new friends that I would never have met before, and through the work at Zero, we've been able to help them out and really forge, what we would call our Zero family.
Great stuff. And Rachel, can you, share some of your background?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure again to be here with you today, New, and Jamie and all the listeners at home. So I got into the nonprofit space when I was in high school. I saw a piece of mail on the kitchen table. It was a direct mail appeal from an organization called Children of Chernobyl, a nonprofit that addressed the needs of children after the major nuclear spill in Chernobyl in the 80s. And it just spoke to me, and I just started a campaign in my school, and I raised $10,000, and I just felt so empowered by it, and then I was hooked. So throughout college, I became involved in nonprofit causes, and I pursued my MPA at NYU in nonprofit management, and then after working in the development arena in nonprofits for 10 years, and I encountered a lot of the challenges that I realized were commonplace to nonprofits, and I recognized I was having some success in building an approach to address those issues, and decided to make a career shift about 6 years ago to consulting to be able to amplify that approach and help other organizations raise more money. So I've been in the nonprofit space professionally for about 15 years, and as a consultant the past 6 years. 2.5 years ago, I founded Raise Nonprofit Advisors to help organizations increase their revenue, strengthen their governance, and to plan more strategically and communicate powerfully. And I just love the work. I love what I do every day.
I love it. And can I say $10,000 for your first fundraiser is really phenomenal.
Yeah, considering I was asking money for money from my, my fellow students and their families and neighbors. So at the time, it seemed like a lot of money.
I mean, that sounds fantastic, and what a wonderful cause too. And it's, timely as it's. I'm sure that everybody at this point has probably seen the Chernobyl series that come out. It's just so heartbreaking even to look back on it all these years. That's wonderful.
Exactly. All right. So let's dive into, some of the trends that we uncovered in the latest resource. Jamie, okay, so the first category is big ideas, and we got a lot of really great ones. But your trend that you suggested is earned income through services, which I haven't really heard of that before. So can you share more about that?
Sure. What we do at Zero is that through the Run Walk series that we have. We're actually going to be in 47 Run Walks across the country this year. So it's being able to deliver a really authentic and rewarding experience for everybody who comes out to the Run Walk. But I think looking beyond that, a lot of organizations do event series like that, whether they're bike rides or run walks and things like that. But being able to look to the future on what kinds of things can be done in terms of can a nonprofit purchase a building and rent out some of the space to be able to have sort of that additional income coming in. Can they franchise out different stores or restaurants or whatnot to be able to drive income through that way? And being in this new normal with having COVID-19 really gripping everybody's thoughts and all over the news, and having to be careful and vigilant and be healthy. But it's also impacted the economy quite a bit and affected many nonprofits. So we're going to have to be very creative coming out on the other side of this, and looking at those ways in which we can really be unique and being able to earn income through services like that.
Yeah, Jamie, I really said that. I think that with everything going on and the impact that it's having on nonprofits and all of their fundraising efforts, I think it's really important for nonprofits to, take a step back and think of other unique and creative ways that they can kind of mitigate this new landscape, or like navigate through this new landscape and continue to bring in that revenue. Rachel, did you have anything to add?
Yes, 100%. I agree with both of you. I think facilities is one of the major earned income, fee for service providers for nonprofits. And with the current reality of social distancing, it's not likely to help payroll this year, but generally it's a good idea to think about how your space could be repurposed to generate revenue. And as we move into the future, it's definitely a strategy that should be continued. I love mission-related earned income. I'm involved as a volunteer in a special needs organization, and they employ participants to create gift baskets. And that's what they send as donor recognition gifts. That's what they send before holidays. Other people obviously call them and ask and get orders from them. So any companies that need, like corporations that need corporate gifts, it's a really wonderful way to support a good cause while you're doing that. So thinking creatively how your mission it can also generate revenue for you is a great idea. And I think counseling is a really big one now for all of those social service agencies out there. This is a need. People, very understandably, it's very normal to be anxious during times like this. And this is an opportunity for nonprofits that may be expecting dips in other areas to beef up their counseling portfolio.
Yeah, for sure. So, the next category that we're going to dive into is really important, especially right now, and it's fundraising and marketing. And when I was getting all the responses, when I was putting together this resource, it was hard to narrow it down. But one of the things that I loved is personalized communication. And I think that we can't say this enough in our space, and especially right now with COVID-19. Rachel, can you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I agree, especially now, communication during a crisis is key. And people want to hear from you. What are you doing? How are you surviving? What's the organization doing to help? And it's important for donors for you to touch base as well. I think thinking about dividing our audiences into tiers, generally, like at any time, this is a good idea. So top donors get the truly personalized follow-up, right? The personalized thank you notes, the calls, the face-to-face meetings. One great hack that I love to do for mid-tier donors is emails that look personalized. You can do this through Constant Contact or MailChimp, or just if you have a general email that's going out to your audience, to forward that general update with a personalized note on top. So those are just kind of quick ways that you could personalize your communications for donors. And recently a client asked me, how can I stand out, like especially now at a time when everything is migrating online, and my donors and constituents are getting email and correspondence from every organization. How can I stand out? And I think what the thing that you need to do is to remember to focus on the relationship and the personalization, even while you're moving things online. It's still possible to do both, to remember somebody's birthday, to check in on the family member of the donor. Those are things that will make the difference and make you stand out over the other myriad of causes that are also vying for attention.
So Jamie, you talked a little bit about this in our 40 trends, and specifically you talk about how the donor not only wants to make an impact with the organization, but they want to feel included. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Sure. They definitely want to feel as though that they're part of the solution, and hear that the impact that they're making, or the donation that they're making, is making an impact to those that the organization is helping. I feel like since we keep hitting on what's going on with COVID-19, that it's important to address that too, because the world has changed in some ways, even from when we put those 40 trends down on paper. so that the things that I would add to it is when it comes to personalized communication. Well, I'll start here. With Zero, we have certain strategic anchors in how we try to succeed, and I think my favorite one, and one that's probably stands out above the others, is show the love. No matter what, show the love to your donors, to your fundraisers, to your supporters, and let them know how much they mean to you and mean to the organization, and the impact that they're making on behalf of on behalf of the patient and his family. With everything going on right now with the COVID virus, it's also extremely important to think about personalized communication in several other ways too, and you know, that includes being cognizant of what is going on and what people's concerns and fears are around the virus right now, and really being aware that that's where people's attention are right now. There's this whole psychology of cognitive dissonance that you know, to boil that down, is that, like, if you're going to your donors and not being cognizant of what's going on in the world, and just keep up for money, or asking them to do this or asking them to do that, or fixated on with what's really going on in the world, or what's most important in their lives right now, which is staying healthy and not spreading the virus, you kind of can come off as sounding, you know, insincere or really disconnected from what's going on in the world. So when the virus, which will pass at some point, it'll pass, lengthens the, if you're tone deaf to that, will lengthen the amount of time it takes for your supporters to come back around to be closely knit with you. So it's important to, you know, say things like, you know, because caring, compassionate, you know, member of our community, and without your support, we would accomplish, you know, nothing. But, you know, what we're reaching out to you today about is, you know, not about asking for donations, or not asking you to write Congress or anything like that. We're reaching out because we care about you, and we want to check on your well-being, and we love you, and we want you to be and healthy. I think another key around personalized communication is being authentic. I think Rachel touched on this, but as human as you can be, especially right now, I think really resonates with people. Instead of and go at them in a unique way. Instead of sending them an email, or, you know, these email blasts that go out that really have the same wrapper on them. You know, really try to zig while other people are zagging. Do something differently, like I don't know, this is old-fashioned thing that's called calling them on the telephone. We don't have many nonprofits that really do that, and we try to make a rule at the organization for those a sizable contribution to Zero. I try to make it the rule of calling them on the phone, getting them on the phone within the hour of them making the donation. As long as they're not making the donation at like 1 a.m. I'm not sure I'm up at that hour, but trying to call and follow up, personalized notes. So I echo definitely what Rachel said, and I don't think we can ignore videos. It's going in the way of doing more and more videos, especially around the time of social distancing, and who knows how long that goes on for. So really embracing that, down on it to do some videos. I do Facebook Live videos and thanking some of our supporters collectively. We'll do videos and send them through social media as like a, you know, either Instagram or Twitter message or whatever to our donors, or either just email it to them of you know, letting them know how much they mean to the organization. We've also done it collectively as a staff across the organization, and had somebody really splice them together and make it to make it a special message for people. And the last thing I'll say on this, in terms of personalized communication, particularly right now, I wouldn't have said this, you know, maybe a month ago, but I'm going to say it now, since we're going through everything with COVID-19, is to be persistent and stay in constant contact, stay in constant communication with your supporters. You don't always want to be asking them for money or asking them to do something every time that you reach out to them. But lead with showing the love, with being persistent and staying in that constant communication with your supporters and checking on them and just having conversations with them in a way that builds a relationship. We're sort of in a keeping our social distance. We have, people can grow, feeling isolated or, feel lonely. So I think throughout this time, if we're persistent and communicating to our supporters and those who really value the organizations that we run, nobody's going to say, oh, so-and-so, he calls like every other day checking on how I'm feeling, or, if the family's okay, if we got enough toilet paper and the dog's okay. Nobody will ever say that. If you're being genuine and reaching out to them in a way that's showing the love, they're not going to say like, oh, they call me too much.
Yeah. Agreed. I think that now's a time that people are looking for meaning and looking for consistency. Like, we have to remember that our donors are generally accomplished people, really smart people, and busy people. They are used to being out every night of the week at different fundraising events, at board meetings, and now there's a void. So I think it's important for us to provide that consistency and to not only, I agree 100% on the personal communication and the authentic communication, but looking for opportunities to engage them, even if it's virtually, so that they have some of that ability to continue to give back, because that's really, at a time when people are feeling that anxiety, panic, emptiness, like to be able to be volunteering and contributing to a nonprofit is it feels really good. And we know that's one of the main reasons why people give. So to be able to keep that up during this time is, I think, a very valuable thing to be able to give to donors.
Yeah, and I want to echo that, because from what we've seen so far, I think that cultivation and continuing to build that relationship with donors and continuing the conversation to make sure that you're not leaving them behind in a very difficult time in their life right now is very important. And not to ask for money, but to, like Jamie said, see how they're doing, how they're feeling, and how their family is doing is really, really important. And Jamie, you mentioned videos, which I think is excellent. I love that, because I think it's so relevant right now, because honestly, it's the only kind of interaction you're getting, or human interaction you're getting, with other people not living with you. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit more and talk about some interactive experiences that we highlighted in the trends, and we have a bunch in our up and coming tech tools section. So Jamie, can you talk about some of that? I know you talked about AI. I would love to hear more about that.
Sure. Well, first off, on AI, that's something that we haven't dove into yet at Zero, but something we're in, and I think we need to be 24/7 service. So being able to reach folks when they come onto our website and are looking for help, and having that AI on the website to be able to direct them to where they might get support if they can't find it on the site, or if they're coming to be a donor, to not just have a cold experience of just going through the process of putting in your credit card, that at least we can capture them, that way, or at least start to begin a conversation by using AI that way. But again, this is going to be, I'll keep going here, probably almost with every question here, with everything that's going on with the COVID virus. I mean, I think that the virus will pass, but I believe that the world has changed in a way that we're never going to go back to. And what I mean by that is having interactive experiences. I don't know if you guys saw over the weekend, or over a couple weeks ago, I think it is by now, is there's a guy I've never heard of until I saw it, but there's this guy, DJ D Nice, that ended up doing these virtual dance parties that a couple of these celebrities showed up to, and had over 130,000 people come out to it. So that's just evidence right there. And I caught a few musicians that just were bored and just decided to go onto their social media and just start playing some songs that you don't go to concert to hear. So it's those kinds of things that I think that us as nonprofits are going to have to adapt to and really harness to create an interactive experience. Some other things that we do through our Room Walk series, but I think it's important that if we're going to embrace this new normal, that interactive experiences are really going to have to be harnessed to our benefit.
Yeah, and Rachel, I know you have a lot of thoughts on interactive experiences. Can you dive into that?
Absolutely. Well, if nonprofits weren't diving into tech and the VR train before now, then before 2 weeks ago, then they're really left with no choice but to get on board now. As a society, as Jamie was just saying, we've taken leaps ahead just in the past few weeks, over the past few years, and definitely in the past couple of weeks on what is possible to do online. So if you've been optimizing technology and experimenting with it until now, that's going to come in really handy and better position you to be able to adapt to the current situation. And that's what we need to do to keep our work afloat in this environment. So it's really about thinking creatively. How can I move this real life experience to a virtual one? I just heard yesterday from an organization whose bike-a-thon was canceled and or postponed. They're figuring out what to do with it, and they're toying with the idea of every individual setting up their own crowdfunding page and just riding on their own, whether it's on a Peloton or like a Peloton room together, or outside in nature, really going off on their own and continuing with the event and just bringing all of that excitement online. Or similarly, I just saw an organization that helps a vulnerable population at home they're asking their volunteers and donors to sign up for 20-minute weekly FaceTime sessions, just to, as Jamie was saying, to help people that are feeling isolated. So that's a great, a win-win, where they're advancing their mission and engaging their supporters at the same time in a virtual way. So another organization that's dealing with the ramifications of COVID on their annual fundraising calendar, they had a dinner coming up that had to be either postponed, canceled, or brought online. And what they decided to do was to create a trivia game show and have all of the participants for the dinner be part of that interactive experience. So when you do part of the challenge of bringing a dinner online is, I think it has two strikes against it. Number one, you're asking people for money at a difficult time. And number two, one of the main reasons people go to a dinner is to socialize with other people, right? To like literally rub elbows, and that's not possible now. Or not possible through a virtual event. So giving it this other meaning is really helpful and a reason for people to come. And people are looking for things to do. I think one of the advice of mental health professionals is to get things on your calendar, and you need things to look forward to. And so this is an opportunity for donors to do that. And I thought it was really sensitive that this organization also made the donation part of the dinner optional. I think when you do something like that at a time like this, it actually encourages more people to give, because they understand that you're considerate of what's going on in the world around us.
Yeah, those are really great examples. This is such a prime time for nonprofits to really think and strategize and find creative ways to continue their fundraising initiatives, but do it at home through an interactive experience.
Yeah.
I love that idea of the trivia game, and maybe even bring your own dinner. I'm such a picky eater, so that'd be perfect for me.
You can have exactly what you want. Yeah, another organization it was telling me that they're honoring it's a synagogue that's honoring an outgoing rabbi, and they can't really do anything to change the fact that the rabbi is retiring now. So they need to move forward with their dinner, and what they're going to bring a dessert to each of their the dinner attendees' homes. They're all in the same local area to kind of band everybody together. It'll be a virtual experience. They'll have a virtual toast, and they'll have dessert together. So it really takes creativity.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So the next thing I want to talk about, and we've talked about this a little bit already, but Jamie, I feel like you were, predicting the future in this trend, which is matching communication to donor identities. And in it, you mentioned how the donor's environment changes. Do you have anything else to, add to what we've already said?
I would share that this is completely not my idea, but I think it's worth spreading. You and I were both at a conference last fall where there was this amazing PhD speaker about donor identities who came, Jen Shang, and just talked about how being able to understand the adjectives that people use to describe themselves both personally and then describe themselves as a supporter of a particular cause, and then using those adjectives to communicate with those donors, and the data behind that, and the interactivity that was driven as a result of really understanding donors in such a great way. I mean, on the surface, it sounds so simplistic of like, duh, why didn't anybody think of that? But he did it, really perfected it and did an amazing job. And that's something we've brought back here to Zero, and I would encourage everybody to sort of hunt her down and bend her ear on, have her bend your ear on what she has to say about that. So I think that's key to add into the discussion.
Yeah, Jen Shang is wonderful, and she's so smart. And she's from the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy, and I'll definitely put a link to her and her website and all the great initiatives she's doing. I think every nonprofit can learn from her. She crafts things in such a passionate but detailed way that I think is really, really commendable.
That sounds so cool.
Rachel, I know you've talked a little bit about this, about matching communications to donors' current, environment. But did you have anything else to add?
Sure. Well, whenever I coach clients that are meeting new prospects, I suggest to them that they start with some open-ended questions and just listen, and then really reflect back. So questions like, what are your impressions of this organization? And we're so honored that you have chosen us to as one of your philanthropic priorities. Like, tell me why. So those are really important questions to get conversation started and to learn more about the donor. And obviously, relationships are so foundational to fundraising, and they're predicated on knowing who your donors are, right? Not just for communication, but for cultivation generally. And I think here, this is like the not so exciting stuff, but the really important stuff is good record keeping. So making sure that you have tags for different interests, and people have come to different events on your CRM. So it helps you build a profile for each of your donors. And when you meet with them, to take notes on donor history and interests.
All right. So Rachel, while I have you, let's talk about, building a leadership pipeline.
Okay, great. So this is an age-old nonprofit problem, right? Like, if there's one problem, you ask people, whenever I ask people, like, what's the top problem that you have as a nonprofit leader? And they say one of two things. Either I don't have enough time in my day to get all the work done that I need to, which maybe in a way now we have some more of that time, right, to do that like back burner work. And the other thing is finding and retaining leadership that brings to the table the qualities that we're looking for, that people that will do the work and have the qualities we're looking for. I call the 4 T's: time, talent, treasure. And then adding in, those are kind of the ones that are well known, touches, the ability to reach out and ask other people to support the cause as well and to get involved as well. So one thought on building a strong team that I've learned through my experience working in nonprofits and also working with a myriad of other nonprofits as a consultant is quality over quantity. So just cut your losses if you have somebody that's not going to do the job that we need. Sometimes we're just like, we need names on this invitation, or like, this committee is too small. But I think it's better to think about who are the people that are actually going to do the work, even if it means consolidating or trimming the fat. And to avoid that problem of not having enough leadership, I think we need to be thinking about constantly replenishing our pipeline of leaders, just like we do with our donor pipeline. And in fact, we can advance both of those things at one time by being mindful of developing our lay leaderships while we cultivate donors, right? Who is good material for a future board position or for a committee. So those are ways that we could think about doing both of those things at once. And as we're doing that, like, what training do they need, and how do we educate them and set expectations early on so they understand their role and are able to execute on it.
Awesome. And Jamie, I mean, I know you run a very well-oiled leadership machine over there. What are some tips for leadership strategies?
Certainly, yeah. This is one of my favorite topics, actually.
I know.
Fill me in on this one. I'm glad to have it. I would say that it starts having a cohesive and well-oiled machine, as you put it, on the leadership team is really rallying around the same values. And I would say that those what you have to think about is those values should probably consider being humble, hungry, and smart. Humble is putting team accomplishments ahead of your own ego. Hungry looks like doing things that are maybe outside of your job description or outside of your area of expertise, but you're hungry and want to drive forward for the cause and make success. And smart in the way of really emotional intelligence and understanding how your actions and words and behaviors affect others and how it falls on them in a way that might harm the situation, or how can you adapt in a way to and improve the situation so you both get what you want out of a conversation. Conflict will always arise within teams, but how can you adapt and really understand your teammates the best way that you can. So when we look to build leadership pipeline within the organization, those are the values that I always look for first. And
I love that. Humble, hungry, and smart.
That's right. Yeah.
Jamie, is it hard to find humble lay leaders, in your opinion? Is that like something that you found a challenge?
I find that smart is the hardest one to get right. And it's not that it's book smart. It's emotionally intelligent and people smart, and knowing are you, when it comes to having hard conversations, are you a bull in a china shop, or are you a conflict avoider? And, if you're always a bull in a china shop, then things aren't going to go very well. We're not going to get very far in focusing on what's most important within the organization. So understanding, what are your triggers, or what kind of sets you off, or what are your strengths, what's your personality type, and really being able to have a good handle on managing yourself before you can manage others is key. And it's funny. I'm always at Zero. I'm always the one who asks like all these crazy questions in the interview process. They bring me on sort of later on, and I'm asking questions like, okay, tell me, what would your friends or colleagues say is most annoying about you? And then I turn it around and say, okay, well, what kind of people do you find most annoying? And I always love asking those two questions, because it really goes to having a good understanding of how you tick, having an understanding of how you behave, and being receptive to how other people are seeing you. And then also understanding what kind of people trigger you, and how do you adapt to that in a way that isn't damaging and more constructive.
Yeah, those sound like great ingredients for a healthy board. I would say if you have donors, a lot of times I find that when I'm talking to fundraisers, they're like, I have this donor, he's a billionaire, or he has so much capacity, but he's crazy. I'm like, sometimes that like comes with the territory of being able to make a lot of money. Like, it just seems like those things are sometimes connected. And so I think it's important to have lay leadership opportunities for people that you want to cultivate, and you want them to be involved in your cause, but you don't want them to take over that board dynamic. So to have a multitude of opportunities so that you can engage people and keep your board doing the job that it's supposed to be doing and functioning effectively.
And I think this is an excellent opportunity to transition into our next topic, which is board development. So many nonprofits, I hear this a lot, that they struggle with having inactive or low performing boards. And that comes in the territory of not setting board expectations. And Rachel, can you dive into that? I know you have a little bit more to say on that.
Sure. Yes. First of all, sharing board expectations is a good idea. I think it should be done annually. So people are refreshed. Sometimes you have board members that have been on for a couple of years, and it's important for them to get that reminder. And a lot of times organizations will ask their board members to create their own board leadership plan for themselves. What are their goals for the year? What is their role? So I like to give them actually like a hard copy of board expectations. And then also the same way that we create development plans for the year, they should have a lay leader philanthropy plan, a board philanthropy plan, where they set out their goals, what they want to accomplish in the next year. And a lot of times that could be prefaced with meetings with that individual about the work they've done so far and how we want and what their hopes are for continuing that work. I think also connecting their role with your overarching plan. So, for instance, if it's at the beginning of a new fiscal year and you're having your first board meeting of the year, to talk about the annual development plan and how their role fits into that. So share the financial goals, share both the qualitative and quantitative goals for the year and how their role is really essential to meet that. Whether it's, and so that could be done again, whether it's a overall strategic plan, an annual development campaign plan, or even now a 6 to 8 week emergency plan. This is something I think we've spoken throughout this podcast about the coronavirus and its impact on nonprofits. Mobilizing your board and so that they feel that they're a part of what the organization is doing at this time is important, first of all, for engaging them, but also because they should be. That's, they are the governing board of the organization, and they should be involved and helping to direct the organization at this time. So if people understand the reasoning, they'll feel more bought in. And if they feel more bought in, they'll participate. So just really taking the time to explain things, to set expectations, to get feedback, and to create goals together.
Fabulous. And Jamie, do you have any thoughts on that, to add what Rachel just said?
Yes, I would also echo that it's important to set expectations every year. We also do that at Zero, and I think it's really helpful because putting it down in just a one-page document of asking something open-ended of what do you want to get out of your experience of being on the board at this organization helps understand what really is most important to the board member and helps you as the leader of the organization try to play to that person's interest and strength. I think we all try to aim to have high-performing boards. High-performing boards are ones that, if you think of the organization as a ship, and you want board members that are both rowing and steering. Steering is the strategy portion of it, and the rowing is the doing or the giving and the getting for the organization to drive the economic engine forward. And so we always try to get multiple things from our board members so they can deliver on the things that they're strong in strategically. I think an example there is we have a couple members on our board that are in research or in the urology field. Again, we're talking about prostate cancer here, so it's good to have their strategic strength around that. Others who are involved in investment firms, which help out with, okay, well, what do we do in a time like COVID virus is going on and the stock market just dropped 9,000 points in 3 weeks. How do we handle that? So there's and also have a couple of board members who are leaders of other nonprofit organizations that I can always go to pick their brain of what are you thinking in this situation, or what would you do in this kind of predicament that we've gotten ourselves into. But then it's all important for them to also row together too, because they set the example for everybody else. And whether you have feeder boards or advisory boards, or your upper echelon of volunteers, which is another thing that I haven't talked about, but we have this really upper echelon of volunteers that we call Zero Champions that we really draw from to. We use them as part of ad boards. We use them as a sort of a feeder board to the board of directors, but then also bestowing the title of Zero Champion on them really empowers them to step up and be more involved in the cause that way too. So it's back to the board of directors, but they really sort of set the example among all of your other volunteers.
I love how you name them the champions. I think there was another example of that in the 40 Trends New.
Yeah, definitely. And with that in mind, we have talked a lot about the impact of COVID on nonprofits today. But Jamie, I kind of want to loop you in here, and if you could share your experience, or like Zero's experience, and how this has affected the organization, and maybe share some actionable tips for nonprofits to implement today.
Wow, that's a tough question.
And it's a little bit for me. I think it's a little early on. I think we need a couple more weeks to see what the real impacts are and see how nonprofits have been kind of responding to it.
Right. So let me tackle it internally, because I think that if you have your organization really aligned and looking in the right way and being a cohesive unit, then some of the external factors that happen that are going to be inevitable, you're able to handle those in a much better fashion. So I would say, particularly with what's going on right now with COVID, here's my thoughts. As a leader in an organization, it's critically important to be more human now than ever before, to be vulnerable, to reach out and care personally for your team more than anything else. Put that above more than anything else, because that's what people on your team want to hear. People are worried about layoffs. People are worried about furloughs. People are worried about getting sick. People are worried about what if the organization just goes under. How are we going to be able to help the cause that we're invested in? So get on Zoom, get on Google Hangouts more than you ever before. Most people are all having to work from home right now for really the foreseeable future until things change. So it's important to foster that human connection and use those. Use the tools that we have. Use videos. Get on, if you're on Slack, get on Slack and share some giffies. Just try to bring the fun back into the situation that's going on. For example, we have a staff meeting every week, but I added a second staff meeting, and it's just 20 minutes to a half hour. We don't talk about anything strategic or tactical or anything like that. It's just like, how are you doing? Like, how's Bobby doing? Like, her report cards are coming out, or like, hey, how's your dog doing? I know I had to go to the vet last week. Just for everybody to sort of like catch up and feel connected. And I mentioned this before, but stay persistent in how often you communicate. Your team's not going to complain about like, oh geez, the boss reached out to me again today to ask how I was doing and to make sure that like I wasn't sick, and checking on my mental health. Like, how dare.
What a drag that guy is.
Right. And be creative about it. I mean, people are their heads are in the news, and we're watching all of this, sort of, a lot of negativity around with the COVID virus. So don't be afraid to look silly. Sometimes, talk about things that you usually don't talk about, like throw out crazy ideas together on how you're going to innovate and get through this. Talk about like, what board games did you play with your family? It all really brings people together, and so team cohesion really comes first.
Yeah, and they need it more than ever right now, and they're going to appreciate it. And I think that's great what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think the stress on fundraisers is something that I'm so glad to hear, Jamie, that as a leader of a nonprofit, you're paying attention to, because it's, of course, a very stressful time for everybody. And, you know, when your job is raising money and there's not as much money to be raised at this time, it's stressful. Like all sectors will see the impact. It's not clear exactly to what degree the coronavirus is going to destabilize the normal order of things, but we know that there is a likelihood of recession, that there's a significant likelihood of recession, and that will impact giving. I think it's important to recognize that right now we are like in the crisis mode. We are in emergency response. And from there, we will go to recovery. Life will slowly go back to normal and giving will pick up. But much like the 2008 recession, it will lag behind where we were when we were in a boom economy, just that we've enjoyed in recent years. And hopefully we'll get back there in not too long. But we need to recognize that things are changing every day, and we have to be flexible. You know, this is something that, like we started talking about at the beginning of the podcast, being nimble and being able to move things online. We have to we have to continue planning, but we have to be able to change those plans. So you asked about some actionable tips. We spoke about throughout the podcast, the heavy emphasis on cultivation and communication right now. If you are fundraising, it should be around emergency response, and it should be like real emergency response, like it, you know, with a very compelling ask that's really related to the crisis, and to include, if your organization is playing a role in direct response, to include that messaging in your fundraising appeals. We also, I think another actionable item is, even though we're socially distancing physically right now, people need that human outreach. And so while we're moving online, to keep up that relationship and to keep up the personal human aspect of things, and to really be there to help our donors with filling that important need at a difficult time.
All right, so that about wraps it up for today's episode. I want to thank all of our listeners for listening in on today's podcast. And of course, Jamie and Rachel, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you two and catching up. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Nonprofit Voice and sharing your insights and expertise on this year's nonprofit trends, but also, you know, on COVID-19.
It was such a pleasure. I hope we get a chance to do it again after we get through a good bulk of this, and can really begin looking towards the future and continued growth in the nonprofit sector.
It was great to be on with both of you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah,
I think there's going to be many more opportunities for us to collaborate in the future, hopefully beyond, you know, what's happening right now.
Sounds good.
So on behalf of Nonprofit Pro, we will see you on the next episode of the Nonprofit Voice. Have a great day, everybody.